Hey Ottawa, this is your Monday market snapshot for the Ottawa real estate market for Monday, September 30th, 2024. My name is Annalie Rice. I'm a realtor here in Ottawa, Ontario, and every week I bring you the details of what's going on in the Ottawa real estate market. This being the last day of September, I will include the charts and such for the end of the month. Take note that it's not going to have the full data, and I will update it again next week, but it'll give you a good idea of what has happened throughout the month of September. Remember that September is typically the time when we have a bit of a uptick in sales and listings for a fall market, and so we'll see what happened this past month and see whether or not it matches up with what people expected. Okay, so first citywide, we have the active inventory just climbed slightly, just by 7 over this last week, and the sales are down just slightly as well, just down by 14 this past week. This is the visual breakdown of inventory. We've got the overall inventory at the top in black, the active inventory in the green, and you can see that we almost reached the same peak that we had in the late spring there. Just looks like we're a little bit below there. And then the sales at the bottom. We've got conditional sales in the orange, and the red is the firm sales this past week. The little horizontal lines show you where we were compared to the same week last year. So you can still see that our inventory levels are higher than what we had even at the peak last year. And the sales are quite a bit higher throughout September and the last little while there. Okay, so this week we had 412 new listings, listings that came to the market, and 120 of those were relisted properties. That represented 29% of the properties that were listed. 292 of them were new to the market listings. That was 71% of them. Okay, so we had 212 sales this past week, and 17% of those sold with no conditions. That's been fairly steady over the last couple weeks. And we had 26% of the sales this week sold at or above asking price. And again, that's been pretty steady over the last 4 weeks. For sales within the first 7 days, we had 20 properties that sold within the first 7 days, and that was 9% of the sales. That's down a little bit. However, the other stats for the first 7 days are up. So we've got 55% of those properties that sold within the first 7 days sold with no conditions, and 80% of them sold at or above asking price. Those are both up fairly significantly, 12 and 15%. For sales within the first 30 days, it's 54% of the sales. That was 115 properties this week, and 17% of those sold with no conditions, which actually is the average for the overall, and 40% at or above asking price. Okay, so for the ones that sold at or above asking, I like to do this because it shows me whether or not a lot of the pricing of homes is being realistic, or if people are like pricing super low to try and create competition and such. So this has stayed pretty steady, but so this week we had 56 homes that sold at or above asking price. 33% of those sold at asking or up to 1% over. 16 of them sold between 1 and 5%. That was 29% of those sales. And 7 homes sold for more than 5% of their asking price. This is where you get into the ones where they've set it up for multiple offers, like listing at an unrealistically low price. So the highest percent was 39% over asking, which is crazy. And the highest dollar amount was the same property, and it was $185,312 over asking. It was a tiny little two-bedroom bungalow with no interior pictures in Wellington Village, so a decent area, but it's not an area that has a whole lot of infills or rebuilds or such. It's not that huge of a lot. It was priced for multiples, priced at $469,900. And it sold for $655,212, and it was set up with an offer date and time. Of the properties, those 7 homes that sold for more than 5% over, 4 of the 7 were set up for multiple offers. The others were just, priced where they thought it was fair, and it was just competition and had over asking. Next, we'll get into the different areas of the city, and then we'll get into the month-end details and charts. In the central urban region, so that's inside the Greenbelt, we have a increase for detached and condo market active listings and a slight drop for the townhomes. The sales were up across property types, most notably in the townhomes, which could be the reason why we had a drop in the active inventory, just because of higher number of sales. In Canada and Stittsville, we had a drop for the active inventory for detached and slightest increases for towns and condos, and sales were down across property types for Canada and Stittsville this week. In Barrhaven and Riverside South, we see that there wasn't a whole lot of change with the active inventory, just up 2 for detached, down slightly for towns and condos, and the sales were up slightly for detached and down for townhomes and condos. Now it looks like we had a big number for townhome sales last week, so this is bringing it a little bit more to a normal amount of sales. And in Orleans, we have a drop in detached active listings as well as condos and a slight increase for townhomes. Sales were pretty slow, not pretty slow, but not much of a change. A slight drop for detached and slight increases for towns and condos this week. Okay, so this is the full data for the residential detached market. Not a whole lot of anything specific to talk about. I just noticed throughout doing this that the average cumulative days on market for the active properties is continuing to climb pretty much every week. It's going up by a couple, so we're seeing that inventory sitting on the market for longer. And here's the same stuff for the townhomes. And finally for the condos. And if you didn't catch it, last week I made a little bit of a explanation as to why the average list price for the active there is so much higher in the Canada and Stittsville. So go back to last week's video and listen on this slide and you can hear the explanation of that. Okay, so this table is the month over month average sale price, and I've broken it down into the different categories of properties. So we've got the detached, I've included the semi-detached, the freehold towns, and then I've split the condos out into row townhomes and row townhome and condo apartments. And the main thing you can see here is that other than the detached market, which was very flat month over month, so August to September, you can see that the average sale prices for all the different property types rose, mostly in the 2 to 4% range. And I will talk about that semi-detached one on the semi-detached slide, which is 2 down from this. But these positive values are indicative of the higher number of buyers that were out this month and the higher sales and just people getting back to the market. This is the fall market climb. And on the next few slides, you'll see that that is pretty normal for there to be a bit of a rise in prices through September. So this is just for the detached. This is shows you month over month if you look at the black line to black lines, but it also shows you year over year. So you can sort of see the trends and where they tend to go. And you can see that it was very flat, and the detached market appears to sort of just peter off throughout the latter part of the year for most years. Okay, so this is the semi-detached market, and I'll talk specifically to why that one bar is so much higher than would be expected or like is reasonable. It's not normal. It's not like people said, oh, like semi-detached is everybody wants to buy semi-detached. It's just what sold this month. So in August 2024, that's the second from the right black line there were 47 sales in the month of August. The average sale price was $682,000. Clearly that was lower than the last few years in August. The minimum sale price was $435,000, and the maximum sale price for a semi was $1.375 million. So they were, just lower priced places that it sold. In September 2024, so this past month, there were 52 sales, so slightly more sales. The average sale price was $787,000, but there were, and the minimum sale price was $391,000, so actually lower than the lowest one in August. But the highest one was $1.8 million, and there were 10 sales over the $1 million mark in September. Contrary to August last month, there were only 4 sales that had been over the $1 million price point, and obviously the highest one had been 1.375. So just more sales of a certain type of semi can really skew the stats when you only have 40 to 50, 60 sales in a month. So that is why, and that's why I always talk about the volatility of the semi-detached market and how you can't just look at that and see the prices going up and think that that's actually an appreciation. It's the type of house that's selling. Okay, so the sort of opposite of that is the townhome market. We have lots of townhomes in the city, and because there are hundreds and hundreds of them that sell each month, the numbers really do average out to show you a pretty good average. You can see that month over month, that's slightly up. It's a little bit more back to where it was 2 months ago, and slightly higher than it was last year this time. Okay, so this is the condominiums, and this is all condominiums, whether or not it's apartment, townhomes, or if you listen to my thing last week, there are some detached homes that are condominiums, so those would be included here too. And this is again why it's a lot more volatile, and you have these weird spikes. So like if you have a $4 million detached condominium sell, it's going to pull that price up significantly for the month. But you can see that there usually is a bit of a rise in the average sale price in the fall there. You can see that there usually is, like August is typically the lowest month, and it climbs up through the fall. Okay, so these three charts are the close price to the original list price ratio. Really, it's like the sale price to the list price. And you can see that in both the detached and the townhome markets there this month, those actually climbed, which is sort of indicative of the higher number of sales and the little bit higher competition that there was on some sales this past month. So that usually just, when there's more than one person offering on a home, people tend to be bidding a little closer to the ask price in those cases. So it pulls up that average. These will get updated again next week, just when all the sales have been reported. But this is sort of normal, and you can look back to the same months last year for, especially in the detached market, you can see that slight rise there from August to September last year. These charts are the average days to sell. So these are just the properties that have sold. And you can see that because we had higher number of sales and we had lots of new inventory that came on in September and lots of sales that kind of snapped up the really good ones there, the average days for the ones that did sell dropped this month compared to last month. So we're sitting at it's kind of a bit of a span there. We got 32 days detached market and 26 for townhomes and 41 for condos this past month. Okay, so this chart shows us the total number of sales by year and by month there. And you can see that as we are right now, our sales are definitely higher than we were in 2023 and 2022 for the month of September. Makes sense. The people are having a little bit more confidence. This will be updated again next week, and fully expect that black line will climb up a little bit. We'll see how much, because the last day of the month is today. It'll take a few days for sales to get reported. But I expect it'll climb up a little bit. Monday is usually a pretty good day for some sales. Okay, so these are the months of inventory for the different property types. And so although we have had increased sales, we do have much higher inventory. We're back up almost to the peak inventory for the year. And the sales are definitely lower now than they were in spring when we were at the same level of inventory. So that's why our months of inventory, which is how many months would it take to sell all of the current inventory at the same sale, the number of sales, if no more inventory came on the market. So it's definitely slower than it was in the spring. So the months of inventory are higher. So we're sitting at 3.8 months of inventory for detached, 2.8 for towns, and 3.8 for condos right now. Okay, so that's all I have for this week. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. I will update all of those month-end stuff next week when we have all the data in for September, so expect some shifts in there. And I'll have a few of the other charts that I can't update until the month has actually ended. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next week.